And this is the education part of the education of the committee. This meeting's been held remotely and also in person, and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcasts available through the Council's website. The Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fill our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the Council's published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, included around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites. And if we're okay to go, Diane, can I ask you to go for apologies and declarations of interest? Roll call.
We have apologies for absence from Councillor Nelson and Councillor Maguire and Reverend Donaldson. We will now move to an attendance roll call before proceeding to declarations of interest. The following members please indicate if they're present at the meeting either in person or remotely. Councillor Armstrong.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Brennan.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Clockerty.
Present chamber.
Councillor Hellier.
Present remotely.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present remotely.
Councillor Reynolds.
Present remotely.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Wilson.
Present remotely.
Reverend Burke.
Present chamber.
Mr. Docherty.
Present chamber.
Miss MacDonald.
Present remotely.
Ms. McEwen.
Present in the chamber.
Are there any further declarations of interest to those intimated at the earlier community's business?
Good to go. Can we move to agenda item number 6 of the papers, which is the education revenue budget? And I'll ask Ian to introduce us.
Thanks, Convener. This is the education revenue budget report for 25-26. The current education revenue budget is 119.026 million, and the latest projection is an overspend of 388,000, or 0.3% of the total budget. The expenditure has increased by 101,000 since the last committee. Section 3.3 of the report that lists the main variances in detail, and the main areas of overspend continue to be employee costs due to the non-achievement of turnover savings and also transport costs. Section 3.4 and Appendix 4 provide details of the earmarked reserves. The expenditure is currently 92.2% of the phase spend and 14% of the expected spend for this financial year. Section 3.5 and Appendix 5, I'm requesting one environment this committee, and that's to wire £65,000 from free school meals holiday payments to fund an overspend in Gaelic transport. It should be noted that the free school meals holiday budget had an excess due to the uptake being lower than budgeted, so it's an excess budget we're moving to fix a problem with the Gaelic transport. So committee are asked to note the projected overspend of 388,000 for the 25-26 revenue budget and approve the environment as detailed in paragraph 3.5 in Appendix 5. And committee are also asked to note that proposals to address the underlying budget pressures will be presented to future meetings of the committee, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ian. I'm going to open up to questions. I've got one from Councillor McVeigh. Tommy, you want to start?
Thanks, Convener. 3.3. Regarding transportation costs, the people knows that they try to bring the number of measures to address pressure. In the future now, is these overspends in addition to the additional measures for taking?
Yeah, I think so through you, Convener, I think the additional measures would be the paper that went in the last committee regarding the purchase of the internal buses to replace some of the contracts. So that's not going to happen until next financial year. So that the actions from that are not included here.
So this is what we're
that's what we're currently saying it's going to outturn this financial year up.
And I just can't think how much of a difference is that going to make in new measures Yeah, I just can't.
I think at this stage it's too early to say what, because we need to establish which contracts will be getting replaced. But I think the plan would be, it would be some of the external contracts that are most expensive will be replaced by internal transport and try and maximise the savings. But at this point in time, I think it's too early to say what the actual amount would be.
Yeah, okay, thanks, convener, and I know lots of work hard on this, and I know it's difficult, and I fully accept that, I mean, they're doing what they can, but I'm just thinking, if we don't resolve it, the measures we're taking, are we, is there a case to say this is a budget pressure, and we need to look for more growth funding?
Ruth, you want to?
The issue for us can be the cost certainty because of the differences in the quotes we're getting back for the transport. What I would say is bringing in the internal transport, the test of change we're doing. Let's see what that looks like. At the moment, there is an overspend on those. Some of the things we are looking at, for instance, consortium transport and how that's done. There are some things within our GIF that we're continually looking at, but I would say it's probably early to say that it's an overspend, and we'll keep watching it as we come to the other committees.
Okay, thanks, convener.
Okay. Any other member? Can't see anything online. Okay, can we agree the recommendations of 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3?
Great.
Can we move to agenda item number 7, which is the Capital Education Capital Programme? Eddie?
Thanks, Sarah. The report covers the regular education capital programme progress report, and the vast majority of the programme is completed between the start of this financial year now, with the use, maximising the use of the summer holidays, so the larger works and the most disruptive work which have previously been recorded. And we'll continue to undertake works between now and the end of the current financial year, including the panel refresh, which is currently having tenants prepared. The other note in here is that we've started the refresh of our property condition surveys. That started at the start of October on the top quarter next year. The outputs from that exercise will allow us to not only update information some core facts on the conditions of the assets, but also form our investment programme for recycling work for the next 5 to 10 years across all education assets. We'll update the appendices as usual, Appendix 2, to add in the work we've done since the last report. This report, as you can see, we continue to spend money across just about every property in the school and education estate. I'm going to take any questions.
Eddie, can I fire one off to you? Wayne, I think it's the one I've probably brought up to you before, and that's that survey you're talking about. So just now, we believe that all our schools are either an A or a B. Will that sort of survey either confirm they're still on A or B, but that will give you that idea of what we need to do to ensure our schools are kept to that nice rate?
Yep,
Yeah,
the kind of outputs from that is based on the Scottish Government guidance on core facts report. It gives you that A, B, C or D, and yes, we had or have all everything in A or B at the moment. It's potentially what comes back from the surveys will change that, so there is a risk that it will maybe have some that's looking to see, but I won't do that yet because we haven't got the outputs from the exercise. But yeah, anything that is getting closer to C, obviously it gives you that heads up that it's getting closer, and where you need to focus the budget that you do have and try and avoid it slipping into C.
thanks, Eddie. Francesca?
Thanks very much, convener. Just to say thanks very much for the update in 3.10. I think getting all those different provisions either expanded or reconfigured over the summer is really impressive, and I know that some families were in touch and concerns about the availability of nursery provisions, but I think we can gloss over these things quite easily, but making sure that all that happened over the summer holiday period and was ready for the start of the new term is something that's really impressive. So thanks to everyone involved in that.
Thanks, Francesca. If we get no other questions, can't see anybody online. Can we agree the report?
Agreed.
Can we go to agenda item number 8, which is our CDIPS report, and I'll ask Ruth to introduce it. Ruth.
So this is the committee delivery and improvement plan and performance report, and also at the back is the risk register. So in the report is all of the ongoing work, some big chunky topics that we're taking forward. And in 3.6, just bringing your attention to the things that we've actually signed up and completed, including the senior phase consultation and the recommendations from that, the CLD service to the inclusive communities, numeracy and literacy strategies, the curriculum development oversight group, the improvement framework, and the substance misuse strategy. They've all been completed. That's not to minimise anything else that I haven't mentioned, such as the ASN. They're ongoing. Two things where we have had some slippage is the current digital strategy. That's not the refresh of the computers, but that's linked to the cloud-based work that's ongoing, and also the review of the PSE curriculum. You'll be aware that there's a national curriculum improvement cycle, groups looking at reviewing the whole of the Scottish curriculum. It doesn't now make sense for us to review the PSE curriculum in isolation on our own, and we know that work's been taken forward nationally. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Ruth. I'll open up to questions. I've got David. Councillor Wilson. David, you're on mute. Much as I hate to tell you.
I've had a very difficult morning trying to understand Sophos, convener. I obviously have not. I would like to ask questions about 3.2, Scottish Government revised guidance on supporting transgender pupils. Now, as
It's the wrong report.
David.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you, you're on the wrong report.
Number 8. This is agenda item 8.
But it's 3.2. I think he's on
Lindsay
9.
says we're in agenda item number 8.
I think your question is really 3.2 and agenda item number 9, David.
Ah, right.
You know I hate correcting you, but I think.
Thank you for correcting me, convener. I do.
You okay, David? So we'll go through this paper first of all, and you've preempted any questions for the next paper. So we're on agenda item number 8. Can I go back to the rooms and online? Do we have any questions on it's the CDIPS? Francesca, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks very much. So yeah, there's lots to be cheerful about in this paper. So that's really good. I've got I see the active borrowers at libraries have gone up an in-person visit. So I've got my books in the car downstairs in the car park. So I promise they'll be going back really soon. But yeah, listen, it was just about attendance, which I know we're going to look at further on in the committee as well. It's going to come up when we look further on at stretchings as well. But it was just good to see, I think, page 74, appendix 2, that we're seeing, sort of green shoots there. That's really good and really reassuring, I think, for committee, because I think it's, that's something that we're always wanting to focus on. We've asked you about it lots. We've had papers here with real detail about all the range of approaches that schools and establishments are taking to get attendance boosted. As you say further on, it continues to be a global and a national challenge, but it's good to see some early signs of improvement there. I think my question was just, I think I've noticed it's either here or in this paper, about the attendance lead that's been appointed. And it's just I don't know if you wanted to expand on the attendance sort of improvements that we'd seen there as well.
Yeah, I think I'll bring Michael in because it's probably up
Thanks
for this
very much.
paper and maybe the later paper as well, Michael.
Yeah, so through you, convener, yeah, thank you. We've obviously indicated that improvement within this report, but also later in a further report around stretchings. And absolutely, it is encouraging to see that improvement. I think that sometimes when you see a 1% or particularly the secondary sector still 1% gain, I think we can't underestimate attendance terms how significant that actually is. We're not necessarily going to see a 5 or 10% gain here. So a 1% gain, we can't underestimate what's gone into achieving that. The work is ongoing, and it is our intention, hopefully, to bring a revised strategy back to committee in January to further to the one that we wrote previously. We've grown out of it, we've superseded it, we've moved on, and we have now, as you referred to, a strategic lead for attendance, which is a role covered from the whole family wellbeing fund. And the role is to work in partnership, across the partnership between education services, HSCP and indeed the third sector, to understand the data very deeply, establishment level, but also starting to look at what could we be doing better and working in partnership in a more streamlined way. We're having another meeting earlier on about this and really digging into what more we can be doing, so meeting health around school-based emotional avoidance and what more have we got that we can put in place to support young people and their families. So bring more back in the new year. Okay.
Thanks. That's really good to hear. As you're saying, if it's already changing and moving forward, then it shows it's quite, I suppose, a fast-paced area, looking at the learning from it, and just really thanks then for that continued focus on it, because it's something really important to us. So that's good to hear.
Thanks, Francesca. I can't see any questions in the room. Can't see anything online. Can we agree the paper? Thank you. Can we go on to agenda item number 9? And I'll ask Michael to introduce the report.
So through you, convener, this is the education update report in relation to a review of local and national initiatives. It's slightly lighter than potentially we've had in the past. We haven't had any key inspected outcomes inspections, but we haven't had any that we can share with you because they haven't been published yet. You may be aware that the framework for inspection has changed. So we had one last inspection in the last 3 days of the previous framework, and that report will be with you in January. It's just due to be published. At 3.2, we have received in September, the Scottish Government published the revised guidance on supporting transgender pupils, and there's a link to that there. And as we've indicated, the service is now reviewing that guidance alongside our partners, including ADIS, Solace and SULAR, as well as ongoing further work to review the provision of toilets across the school estate, and a further report will be brought to the Education Committee in due course once that process of review is completed. In section 3.3, there are a number of updates around the education reform process. In fact, since I wrote it, there have been further developments in what I've communicated to you there as of the 1st of November. The actual beginning of that decoupling of the Inspector from Education Scotland, which will be the curriculum reform element of what currently exists, took place. They decoupled their website, so that there's that sense that actually things are moving. And alongside that, at 3.31, there is a national consultation underway around the future of inspection. So we promoted that to parents and supportive of our staff and schools putting in a contribution to that. We will make a contribution to that. Our response as a service. We've been following that recently with our assessors, who are head teachers and members of our central team designated to that role. We will share our response to that with conveners. The Centre for Teaching Excellence, which we referred to before, has begun to take shape. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on how that begins to evolve alongside the curriculum improvement cycle, which Ruth referred to, and there's a report later about that in the committee papers. At 3.4, just keep a constant evolving update on the Scottish Achievement Challenge. As I think we may have mentioned this at the last committee, we had just come back from the national conference on the 1st of September, which was that point of review of the 10-year anniversary of its inception. And as you'll see throughout the remainder of that section, and as highlighted in that very last paragraph, it starts from the successful visits undertaken, and there's ongoing work to engage with the profession as to what might come next and other key stakeholders. So we've had a visit from Scottish Government colleagues just the week before the October break, and Ruth and myself and some of our colleagues were there to have an open dialogue about where we were at, where we felt we might be going in the future. So other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I've from now.
Yes, you have.
And I'm referring to 3.2, Scottish Government revised guidance supporting transgender pupils. I copied the advice that they're given, all 63 pages of it, and it is a very comprehensive document and is extremely good of giving consideration and care to transgender pupils, as it should do. But back on the 13th of April this year, the Supreme Court in London overturned the Scottish Government's policy on transgender, where they established very, very firmly the difference between biological and ideological. They established very much that a woman was a woman and a man was a man. Unfortunately, this document is good at looking after transgender children, but doesn't touch on issues that were raised at that Supreme Court. There is no mention of children who may identify with cats and dogs, because we saw there was a splurge of people identifying with different things. We had the convicted rapist who decided that he would identify as a woman, sent to a women's prison. There is no mention about identifying himself with strange things and not just the opposite sex. There's no mention of toilets and joint places, though I see there is to be a further consultation on that, which I hope will be involved. Another thing that concerns me in it is in one page it says, remember to consider the privacy of young people. And further on in page 32 of this Scottish Government document, it says a transgender young person may not have told their family about their gender identity. Inadvertent disclosure could cause needless stress for the young person or could put them at risk and breach of legal requirements. Therefore, it is best to not share information with parents or carers without considering and respecting the young person. Now, I've spent the last 10 days speaking to parents. I've not found a who would not want to be told by school staff that their child was considering identifying with a different biological. Now, my question is for Michael and Ruth. To what extent will we be involved in the service, in the reviewing of the guidance? Second thing, why will it take to January? Supreme Court judgment on the 13th of April. Thank you.
Does anyone want to come in first on the toilet?
I'm going to bring, Ruth asked me to bring in Anne first on the legal side of things. Anne.
Through you, convener. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I think I advised previously that Council has a short life working group that have been reviewing UK Supreme Court's decision from April. And the Council has been awaiting updated guidance. Officers have had access to the Scottish Government's guidance, so we are reviewing that in light of the current provision. However, that is really only part of the picture, and as you've highlighted, there are gaps in the guidance. The Equality and Human Rights Commission, the EHRC, submitted interim guidance not long after the UK Supreme Court decision. However, that was heavily criticised, and the EHRC have now withdrawn that initial guidance, and they submitted their updated code of practice to the UK Government on the 4th of September. That is the code of practice for services in public bodies. And that was submitted to the UK Minister for Women and Equalities, requesting that the government revoke the previous code of practice and lay the code in Parliament. And as soon as that happens, that will become statutory guidance. So officers obviously are very keen to have sight of that. I don't know when that's likely to happen. I thought it would have happened before the end of this year. And the most up-to-date information I have is that the EHRC have placed pressure on the UK Government to place that code before Parliament.
Okay. Do you wish to add to that just now? Or?
Yes, Councillor Wilson, some of the things in the guidance have not changed from the previous guidance. And can I just say, these are all young people. They're all individuals, and they're all we demand that they are treated with respect and with their rights being protected. And our schools do that extremely well. I think the guidance from memory, I haven't got it in front of me, also says that schools can very well, depending on the age and stage of the pupil, act as brokers between a young person and their parents. And quite often that does happen, where perhaps the initial talking or initial disclosures may be to a trusted guidance teacher or a trusted teacher within that school. And they will give pertinent advice, and they will advise the young people to speak to their parents, but they will do so with the consent and the permissions of the young people, depending on the age and stage of that person. So what I would say is, we look at each aspect, taking the human and the child at the centre and making sure we're meeting their needs.
David, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I look forward to seeing what we get in January.
Okay.
So by that time, it will be after judgment.
Thank you, David. We will get an update at that point. Elizabeth, will you want to come in, or has Ruth covered your?
I kind of did want to come in because I'm getting quite frustrated with the wording of the report, etc., being misused. At no point is that guidance saying that schools have to withhold information from parents or whatever. It's basically saying that if they're saying anything, they should be doing it with the backing of the child. In the ideal situation, and I'm going to add to Councillor Wilson's straw poll of parents here, the person I would most like to hear about if my child was transgender, I would like to hear that from my child, not from their school. And I would hope that my child's school would be encouraging my child to have confidence in me as their parent, that I could journey on that with them. That it wouldn't be up to them to make the phone call and say, by the way, it would be up to them to as Ruth said, broker the conversation. I think this type of issue that comes in reports and has legislation and guidance around it is so delicate. It is young people's lives that we are dealing with, and I think it is not helpful if we sensationalise them, if we misrepresent what the wording is either saying explicitly or what its intentions are, and I just think it would be wrong for me to have been silent on that this afternoon.
No,
thank you for letting me speak.
Fine, Elizabeth, and as we've said here at this committee many a time, our schools, and sometimes a place of safety for young people. And when that goes away, if we lose that for whatever reason, then we certainly lose something. Our teaching staff, our head teachers, we put a lot through Michael's onus and through our education staff to look after young people, and that's what we do. So if people are happy with that, I'll open up to see if there's any other questions in any other part of this report. Jim.
Can I just have one question on
Yep.
this particular part of the report? I hope it's a very rapid question. My report is that the report is clear, it's helpfully clear that guidance and will constitute a single sex space. But it leaves a question over what would be considered to be competitive sport and what would be considered to be games, and both would be treated differently. Now, I'm not asking anyone to be put in the spot and ask what that price would be, but I'd simply say that I would hope that that's not going to be left to schools to decide, or clearly schools to decide on an individual basis in the best interests of the young person. But I would hope that the authority would maybe take some of that burden off schools and give some advice about what would constitute a situation where the legislation was relevant and where there was more leeway for interpretation.
Michael, would you like to comment on that?
So you convener, not significantly other than I welcome the question, and we'd seek to take that away and reflect on it and bring that back as part of the report in the new year.
Okay, Jim. If there's no other questions, can we agree the report and again move on to the next item, which is an extremely important item? I'm going to ask Michael to introduce an awful lot of good information on it. Michael? On the spreadsheet.
You can do that just glancing over to Mark White was on the call, which he is. This report is a report linked to an update regarding the Strategic Equity Fund and also progress towards stretch change, which we previously brought to committee. And obviously within that, it has interlinked many of the outcomes from the last academic year. I'm going to hand over to Mark just in a moment to talk us through the report. But just to thank Councillor Brennan for referencing the attendance, because I did want to point in that, and Mark probably will as well at 3.5, that final bullet point of some of the highlights in terms of progress that's been made, and not underestimate the significant gain of 1.05 percentage points in secondary attendance. I'm happy to hand it to Mark.
Mark?
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, convener. As you'll be aware, the purpose of the report is to seek approval for the evaluation report of the stretch aims for session 24-25 and the updated SEF plan for 25-26 and the associated stretch aims. As part of the Scottish Attainment Challenge refreshed framework, progress is outlined in the appendix to Local Authority Standards and Quality Report. In section 3.5, I'd like to highlight some of the key points. The continued overall progress of the ASO literacy and numeracy attainment within the authority, the improved attainment at SCQF level 5 and level 6, as Michael has mentioned, notable improvements in secondary overall attendance, along with the improved attendance of our Q1, our SIMD 1 and 2 pupils in primary. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mark. It's a very full paper. I'm looking for questions. Francesca, want to come in first?
Thanks very much, Mark, for bringing this to us. And I checked to see if you were on the screen earlier when I mentioned attendance and saw that you weren't. So I'm sorry, I was a bit early with my comments because we referenced it in another paper as well. But yeah, it was just to say that's great to get that detail on page 111 about the improvements that we're seeing there. Michael filled us in a wee bit on some of the work that's been done around the attendance lead appointment, and just saying that, you know, it's constantly there as a focus, looking with different stakeholders and of course like our children and families as well, to see what we can do. But no, thanks so much for all the work that's there, and also just to comment that it's really good to see that 4+ stretch aim on page 90 as well, about care experienced children and young people, and having a name in there specifically about making sure that their attainment is improved and part of a focus for us. So I'm really pleased to see all that. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Francesca. Elizabeth, you.
Yep, thanks, Camilla. I'm going to be honest, I kind of struggled with the report a little bit in terms of the narrative was very, very helpful, but the tabulations, I found it quite hard. And I'm all right generally with figures. It's not that I'm, but I'm honest. But in this case, I did struggle a little bit, and I'm wondering if that could be a wee job to kind of make that a wee bit simpler. There were a couple of the stretch aims that I couldn't tell immediately just by looking at it whether we were doing well or not, or well enough or not. And I'm again just bringing my vulnerability and my honesty, and we want to be able to use these reports and actually kind of tell the story with them. So can I ask for a bit more simplicity?
I'm going to bring Ruth in there. Ruth.
Yeah, it can be quite complicated because we use a window, so it's between two percentages. What I would do is probably urge you to look at page 109, and that's probably looking at the June 24 overall levels against the June 2025 progress. That probably is giving you the clearest articulation. We've kind of got the same information in 2 or 3 different ways because that's how we're asked to report it as well. What we could perhaps do is when we do the briefing on attainment, we could perhaps extend it by 15 minutes and just talk through the stretch aims as well, because again, they're stretch aims, they're meant to be aspirational. You may have improved but missed your stretch aim as well, so that can make it difficult to put into a tabular format. So we can talk through that at the briefing.
Michael?
Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Any other questions? It is one of these papers, there is an awful lot of information within it. Really an awful lot of information, a lot of good information in it as well. But if we can agree the paper, so we're agreeing recommendation 2.1 A and B.
Agreed.
And can we move to again just an update on ASM out of school hold? I think we've got Yvonne online.
Yep.
Yvonne.
Through you, convener. So the purpose of this report is to ask members of the committee to know updates relating to the development of ASN and out of school and holiday provision. You will see from 3.1 in the report that there was a one-off reserve of £600,000 was allocated to enhance the current provision for ASN and out of school care and holiday care services. This was to develop further ASN and enhance the services that were offered for the summer of 2025. A consultation took place to gather parents' views on the current services and the services offered over the summer, and 65 parents participated in the consultation through a range of methods. Feedback from the consultation is currently being analysed to inform the development of services moving forward, and a strategic group has been established to look at the totality of services currently available to enable us to review all services. Although challenges still remain regarding staff recruitment, the group is exploring ways to work with the Care Inspectorate and the SSSC to overcome this, and we know this is further complicated due to the age range being 5 to 18. You should note in 4.4 of the paper that due to the previous confusion regarding the Play for All service, that as we develop that provision, we would hope to change the name so that it's to make sure that it's understood clearly by parents. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm going to open up to questions. Can't see anything. No questions. Thank you, Yvonne. Obviously, it's one. The only thing I would say on this, it's probably 3.4. It is disappointing very much. The last sentence in it, the uptake for the consultation was lower than anticipated. I suppose that's the one thing that is disappointing, that we've heard a lot, and we've all heard a lot over the last year or so about ASN out of holiday provision. And the very fact that when we do things, we're not getting that official feedback back is probably quite disappointing. Suppose it's all power to your elbow, Yvonne, to try and get to the parents, to try and get that mix between HSCP and the council to make sure we do our best that we can for that. Probably my only comment. So thank you for that, Yvonne. And with that, can we agree the paper? Unless there was anything else you wanted to add, Yvonne, sorry, did I cut you off there?
No, that's me. No, that's us. That's fine.
Right, thank you. Can I move to agenda item number 12, which is the West Partnership Collaborative Framework, Ruth?
Yes, so those of you who've been in the committee long enough will remember we did have the West Partnership, and there's an evaluation of that, of the work of the West Partnership undertaken by Graham Donaldson and Chris Chapman as Appendix 1 to this paper. It's very, very positive about the ability to work together and the ability to join up best practice. We have got the West Partnership version 2, and that is now looking at setting up a collaborative framework for 25-26. All of the authorities previously in the West Partnership have opted to stay working together. We all have put an element of resource into it, and the framework cannot cover the wide range that the previous plan had, but it looks basically at early level, leadership of learning, inclusion and emerging priorities, which means that as things come through either the national picture or through the Scottish Government, we can work together. Support for transgender pupils and the guidance being one where we can all get each other's thoughts and also look to what else is happening in that sphere. So a very positive story. Very much about sharing resources and using learning from each other to get the best for the young people in the west of Scotland. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Ruth. I'm going to open it to questions. Can't see anything in the room. I can't see anything online. Probably my only comment for that would be, if it wasn't working, we wouldn't be in it, because we're actually putting money into it now. So our education people believe that this is a good way to work in collaboration with our partners throughout the rest of Scotland. So the very fact that our officers are actually saying, despite the funding not coming from the Scottish Government anymore, it's still worthwhile for the council still to do that. I think it's only a good thing. So with that, can we agree the paper?
Agreed.
And the next item is our Active Schools Performance 24 to 25. Hugh, you're going to take us through this?
Yeah, afternoon everybody, afternoon Chair Convener. This is the annual report on the Active Schools Team Performance 24-25. As you're aware, Active Schools are a part of a partnership with Sport Scotland, and we continue to work very closely with our national partner. In the report, I'm delighted to say that we have a number of impacts across the year. Within 4.1 gives you continued growth of the service. 2024, we're now sitting at 52% participation, and the average national participation is 40%. So we're actually sitting third in Scotland at the moment for performance of Active Schools. Within this gives you also the 82% of primary school participate in extracurricular activities. 19% of secondary schools participate in extracurricular clubs. This is up from an increase from 16 the year before. So we're delighted that that's moving forward. Based on the split that you see at the bottom, our split for our gender is probably around about 48 females, 48%, and 52 males for participation. Key part of the Active Schools is the strong partnership we have with our schools and our volunteers. 4.4 gives you the amount of time that volunteers have supported the initiative through the last year. 4.5 gives you an update of the continued work to strengthen the school links to our clubs in the community, and a list of accreditation updates and based on the agreement we have with all our clubs. And I'm also delighted in 4.6 of the report, we've been working very closely with Sport Scotland and Naval Works to make sure to secure a post for a young person as a modern apprentice. I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Hugh. I'll open up for any questions. Fancy. Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Convener. I'd just like to say it's a comment about the report. It's really good to see such a positive report, and the list of the notable successes is really impressive as well. Primary engagement going up from 69%, and the secondary participation seeing a growth as well is very is good to see, and it will be interesting to see how that progresses in the future. I'm presuming that a lot of these active participation is a range of it. It's not just for kids that are into like athletics and running and football and everything, but a range of activities that will suit lots of children, so that more can take part in it in some kind of active way, and it'd be quite good to see a bigger list of detail of those, so we can see what our children are interested in and what's offered to them. Thanks.
Sandra, I'm going to let Hugh comment on that just to put your mind at rest. Hugh, would you like to?
Yeah, for yourself, Convener, yes, there's a number of other different sports, including tennis, dancing and everything within that. I can give you a full list to it, Councillor Reynolds, if you want to see what we're participating in.
Chess clubs.
Thanks, Hugh, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? And I would just reiterate Sandra's point, it is an extremely positive report and well done, especially to our volunteers for all the work they actually put in, and our teaching staff as well. So they do go over and above what they're registered to do or what they should be doing. So there's obviously a very big thanks to them as well. So thank you. And thanks you for yours as well. So with that, can we agree the report?
Agreed.
And can we move to agenda item number 14, which is Inverclyde young people's health and well-being and substance use education. And Tony's going to take us through that. Tony?
Thanks, Convener. So this report is to update the committee on the progress impact and future opportunities from the substance use education framework that we've been delivering across all our secondary schools. The report is a very positive report. The focus has been on substance use education, on awareness, stigma reduction, risk behaviour and harm reduction. It's a very small team delivering this, so partnership with schools is critical. So the report was just give you an update on all the good work that's been going on, and also we will be continuing this work into the new session. And this positive work, so happy to take any questions on the report.
Thanks, Hugh. I'm going to open up to any questions. I've got Elizabeth first and then Francesca. Elizabeth.
I think this is a brilliant report. It's really great. And as you said, small team, we know it's a small team, but my goodness, what an impact they have had in the period that they've been operating. And we also know sort of from things that we've spoken about at committee and things that we probably hear through our school connections, etc., the agility of the team to respond to emerging issues and concerns has been phenomenal as well. So that's absolutely to be commended. Ruth and I have already had this conversation, that this absolutely shows the impact of the delivery of the team. What we want to see coming from that is obviously changes in attitudes and behaviours in our young people, and that this report clearly doesn't and shouldn't, I'm not saying it should, measure that. Correlation, causation, we're never going to get anything that says this input has caused a change, but so we had kind of talked that through when we met, Ruth, but it has now made me think about our health and wellbeing survey, which is the thing that we have done in the past at various points to measure what the attitudes, behaviours, choices of our young people are, and it's just provoked me to ask the question, are we thinking about doing it again? I know it's a pricey thing to do, but I think it's been very valuable to us in the past.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Tony or Ruth, you want to take that, the specific on the wellbeing survey?
So the
is it due to be?
It's the licence for the health and wellbeing survey that has proved difficult. If you remember, we went from a national health and wellbeing survey, and there was a lot of discussion about the contents of that survey. We then changed the questions we asked And my understanding was that the national survey then, the licence was problematic. I will look at my understanding of that. We do take part in national surveys, but the difficulty is that if you're taking part in a national survey, you can't always see the Inverclyde specific data. Some of the Inverclyde specific data we get from other sources might be GG&C wide as well, so it'll be to the west of Scotland, not as localised as we would like it. I will look again at where we are with the potential for conducting the survey. I know the survey was sitting there. It was particularly the licence, and remember we had asked people to opt in rather than opt out in Inverclyde, so we got quite a low take up. But I will have a look at that.
Thank you.
Can I bring in Francesca now?
Yeah, thanks very much, convener. So it's really good to get this report and this update. As I sit on the Alcohol and Drugs Partnership, as councillors round the room and online have either been on possibly in the past, so they'll know that I think it's something that group's really interested in as well, and has a real focus on. And I think we've talked maybe around that about how the importance of getting substance use education right. And Councillor Robertson's already mentioned agility, because I can see that in the sort of list of topics here, that's really good to see that changing and developing. I remember there'd been a reference in previous reports to, drill music. Did that need to be there? And I see in here now we've got sort of different things that are moving on with awareness. And no, that's really good, and really good to see, looking at the timings as well, because I think there have been questions before about maybe one of the schools wasn't able to fit it all in because of how their timetabling was working. So it's good to see there's been flexibility there with that, and the widening of the age group to younger pupils too, to catch them as early as possible. So yeah, I think lots of really good things in there to see. So thanks for that update.
Thanks, Francesca. Can't see anybody online. No. The only comment I would make, it's on the back of Elizabeth's comment. Young people today, the whole scene's changed so quickly, and the whole idea of social media and how it's affecting young people. I think the only hope we've got is to try and do these surveys to try and get a glimpse at that point in time. If we'd done a survey 2 years ago compared to a survey now, it would be totally different about different things that are impacting their life. So the type of thing is very important. It is very important for us as a council. As a 60-odd-year-old man, I can't help to understand what's going on in young people's lives just now. I can't hope to understand the pressures they're under, and the only way we can understand is through surveys like this, if they can do it anonymously or no pressure on them. So I would agree with Elizabeth. It would be good if we could possibly do one, but again, I understand the constraints we might be under. So can I agree that paper?
Agreed.
And can we move on to the next agenda item, which is the curriculum improvement cycle, Michael?
So through you, convener, this is a report just to keep committee cited on a seminal piece of work, I would say, in Scottish education, which is particularly the curriculum improvement cycle. Jumping right in at 4.9 and predicating that with the commitment to bring the members' briefing on the curriculum improvement cycle in the new year. But this is a kind of preamble and a warm-up, and members may want to, at 1.4, have a look at the link to what is now in the public domain and the curriculum improvement cycle website. There's a wealth of information out there. So the cycle is really looking at a 10-year cycle, a decade of review of the curriculum, with a particular focus on the role of knowledge within the curriculum, and trying to bring greater clarity on progression, key points of transition, which has always been a focus. It's been a challenge across early years, primary and secondary, and trying to seek that strong alignment between the broad general education and the senior phase. I'm not going to go through the entire report in great detail, but just picking up on a few points, particularly in section 4, I think it's important to say that the OECD report that was published a number of years ago now did endorse curriculum for excellence as the right model, but the research around the model at that time indicated that some of the highest performing education systems internationally had what they had that was potentially different to Scotland was that clear cycle of review of their curriculum. So the curriculum improvement cycle is a response to that, and the work is well underway. What we're doing at the moment, this phase we're in, I'm likening it to being at the foothill of a mountain and we've got 10 years to climb it. We're really beginning that process of awareness raising and ensuring that there's a wide understanding, certainly here in Inverclyde, about what lies ahead. And again, jumping about in the report a little bit, you'll notice at 4.7, both Ruth and myself, I think we might have scratched our head at a meeting and ended up, I think we did volunteer willingly to be co-leads of national steering groups. I'm leading on literacy and English, and surprisingly, Ruth's leading on the expressive arts. So we've managed to get a seat at the table nationally so that we are well centred and informed about what is happening, and that has involved us being engaged in a number of development sessions, both with Education Scotland, colleagues from other local authorities. But what we're trying to do is try to take that strategic approach, and what we have established at 4.8 is what we've grandly called the Strategic Oversight Board for the curriculum. It's mentioned earlier in the committee report as being a completed action, which it is, and that is the membership of that committee is essentially the central team of officers alongside the cluster chairs, and we're using a cluster model to ensure that coherence of the curriculum both across the authority but at a cluster level. And within that steering group we've got representation from Education Scotland as well to help us retain our focus. We are at the point of beginning to see some of the emergence of the national work that has been happening. So we'll be in receipt of some of the output of the curriculum groups, and particularly numeracy is the first one that we will see documentation. And what I suppose most teachers are desperately wanting to get their hands on is the technical framework. We're having our annual Heads Conference in November, and surprisingly this is our focus. And what we're really trying to do at that point is help heads to reflect on their role as curriculum makers, curriculum leaders, in preparation for taking this forward both at an authority level, at a cluster level, and at a school level. We'll be able to see more at the briefing and give you a bit more detail and insight, but it's just to keep you sighted on essentially what is our core business. I'm taking questions.
Thank you, Michael. Paul.
Thanks, Convener. Just under 4.8 or 4.7, 4.8. I sit on the Youth and Wellbeing Board Group, Collaborative Group and Steering Group, and I just wondered if you have oversight, and if not, would you have oversight of the like teacher voices that are on each of the groups, and might that be another way of finding out what's happening across the KIP, as it's called?
Michael?
Yes, we do. We've been given an indication of who has, because that was becoming a challenge, that there's been such involvement, which is a strength, I would say, of the process, of practitioners coming forward and giving their time to actually beginning to commit to time that's involving the development of the actual curriculum resource. So we do now can see that, and the challenge is we can only do this one chunk at a time, as the phrase goes. So it is helpful to know who currently is involved. That will likely change for various reasons. So what I have fed back is we need regular updates as to who's involved from beyond ourselves at head teacher level as well as classroom practitioner level.
Well, okay. Do we have any other questions? My only analogy, I like my analogies I would give. Michael said it's about climbing a mountain for 10 years. You've got to get your base camp right. And I think this is what you're doing, is get the base camp right before you climb it. So that's that. May I give you the paper? It's not quite as corny as the joke I told it.
Oh yeah.
Can you quickly move along to agenda item number 16? This is the Education Service Improvement Framework, and again it's Michael.
So through you, Convener, this is an outstanding breakthrough. bring this framework back to you, and again, as referenced earlier on, as a complete action within the committee plan. What I would preface this report is saying this is never a finished done deal. It evolves constantly and continuously, which is as it should be. But this is the framework as it currently exists. And in section one, just giving you that high-level overview of this document. What the document essentially is doing is articulating back to ourselves and to our education establishments how to offer and supporting and challenging them with continuous evaluation of their provision and what it is that we are doing. We're offering them at a universal level and a more targeted level to support and challenge our schools. The framework as it exists, as the appendix here, has had quite a bit of review last year, partly because you'll remember at this point last year we were engaging in the national thematic inspection that was going on around local authority approaches to supporting and challenging schools, and we took a report, I think it was in January this year, to you on the outcome of that, and that really did help us think through who we were. As a service, it was a very strong report, but there were things within that report that definitely gave us food for thought, and there were national recommendations within that report as well. As well as that, we had done our own work with self-evaluation work with the heads cohort, looking at the framework. And as well as that, we are working, I've mentioned this before, in a quad. So the first two local authorities are in 8 quads working together. And we have a focus which is around self-evaluation linked to a new document that's been written by ADES, Education Scotland, primarily called How Good Is Our Education Authority, and that had identified areas that we felt we could work on together as a quad, and that is what we've been doing essentially for the last 6 months. We've taken our improvement frameworks as they exist, and we've reflected on them together and learned from one another. And I've made reference to that in the report. So essentially at 3.6, what we've tried to do is take cognizance of some of the national recommendations. And in fact, one of the things that I'm doing tomorrow in conjunction with a colleague from Western Berkshire Council is doing a session for central officers from across the quad around their role in supporting and challenging schools. We've not hung about, we're not looking for a national offer, we've got in and designed our own, and we're taking that out for a test drive tomorrow to see how that goes, because that was identified national as a gap. There wasn't really a training offer for central officer teams in the work that they do, which is critical and is outlined in this framework. One of the big differences for us is that we have tried to articulate within the framework what our universal offer is to all schools and establishments, and what we might do to provide further support in an enhanced and more targeted way against a set of criteria which is also laid out in the framework. So officers have for the first time implemented that in partnership with heads by looking at data that we have at the end of the academic year against that criteria, and then going into essentially what we call brokerage meetings where we agree what that category is and what that support offer is going to look like in a very targeted and bespoke way. And throughout it, we continue to go in and do reviews in schools, although we have decided that that doesn't need to, the frequency of that is not required as often now. So we've said we're going in every 6 years, but on an annual basis, we're going in for about a morning's worth of activity to have an annual achievement meeting. And again, that has evolved, as I think I've articulated within the report 3.4, on the back of the quad work, where we recognise that potentially we could do that differently and gain more traction in supporting and challenging our schools. So hopefully it's helpful to you to see that laying out through the framework of how we're working with our schools. And there's lots of different ways to evaluate the impact of the framework, namely in the outcomes that we looked at earlier on, obviously, whether or not we are being validated through external inspection by Education Scotland, the Care Inspectorate, which to date we seem to be. And the feedback we're getting from the headship group is incredibly positive. They were involved in designing it. It wasn't done to them, it was done with them. And certainly the feedback we're having anecdote. I was in a school this morning with the head teacher talking about having just had their annual achievement meeting. They really enjoyed the evolution of that and the change to the practice. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that, Michael. We'll open up for questions. Can't see any in the room, and I can't see any online. Can we agree the report? Thanks, Michael, for that presentation. And that is us finished for today. So can I thank you very much for your participation, and thanks for all the officers for their attention. And thank you.